Today on episode 2, the NFL draft is over, and there's plenty of storylines all around the league from Johnny Manziel to Michael Sam. We'll cover them all.
And yes, we'll be talking about Donald Sterling and the interview with Anderson Cooper, little NBA playoffs, and my new segment that's so brand new that it doesn't even have a name yet.
Plus, following the success of Beats by Dre being sold to Facebook, Bo and I are starting our own headphone company, made of a little chicken wire, stucco, and some duct tape.
Pre-order now.
It's the Sean and Bo Show. Yes, it is the Sean and Bo Show, episode 2. We actually came back to give this another stab.
Yes, we are still here, people.
We are still here. And the NFL draft, a source of lots of frustration for NFL fans in general because you have so much useless draft speculation. Well, all of that's over, and now we're left with all these storylines coming out of the draft. Certainly the biggest one, Michael Sam.
Yes, you can't deny it. It was interesting to me because I actually ended up talking draft with my wife and mother-in-law this weekend. Never thought in all my years that those would be the people I would be going over the draft. But the Michael Sam deal where he was drafted, he's with family. I believe there was an embrace with his partner there.
And some cake, too.
And some cake. You know, you can't forget the cake. You know, it sparks a lot of conversation. America's changing. And we're going to see it front and center on cable TV.
And it was the St. Louis Rams with the 249th overall pick that took Sam. And it's kind of interesting, following the pick, all of these different players have, of course, taken to Twitter and gotten themselves into some trouble.
Yeah, you know, Don Jones, safety for the Miami Dolphins, tweeted out, OMG, and I believe it was terrible. You know, keep that to yourself. But it raises a bigger question. This makes the 1,000th or the 100,000th Twitter blunder since the NFL and Twitter have been together.
Oh, you got to love it.
You got to love it. And I always remind people, it's the money. Every time this happens, everybody's like, well, why do these guys get access to Twitter? Why can't the coaches in the league keep them off? Hey, I'll let you in on a little secret. Verizon Wireless is trying to get rights to put NFL games on our phones.
Right.
Twitter is a huge media outlet. They also need someone to man the beat reporters, the play-by-play type stuff. So Twitter is right there with them. It's $1 billion a year contract with the NFL.
See, I've always loved the idea as soon as I heard it, of the idea of players tweeting during the game. I think that's awesome. But, you know, I don't think they would get themselves nearly into as much trouble doing that as they do in the privacy of their own home. Maybe after they've knocked back a few, start to get a little mouthy, want to connect to all their Twitter followers. That's when the magic happens.
See, you know, there's a big problem. Football players, we're seen as the big jocks on campus, the big dumb jocks, just there to knock heads with everybody and date cheerleaders and chug keg beer on the weekends. But, you know, a lot of us, and myself included, we do student government. We're big guys with loud voices, and we have opinions. And, you know, a lot of these guys that tweet out, when you look into their history, I don't know Don Jones, but, for example, the gentleman last year for the Steelers who tweeted out after bin Laden was killed, you know, what he said, he brought up a good point. You're not going to get a bunch of guys who were made to go to class at some of these universities and sit in on these liberal debates to just shut up when they're sitting at home drinking a cold one, and something like, you know, Michael Sam getting drafted by the St. Louis Rams happens and the embrace with his partner on TV. These guys are going to be boisterous. They're going to say something. They're going to get it out there, you know.
No kegs during your college career, Bo. You look me in the eyes and you tell me that. I don't believe that for half a second.
Oh, we had plenty of kegs. I actually have shells in the garage. I could prove it to you.
I forgot to mention at the top of the show, I'm Sean O'Donnell. Thank you very much for listening. My co-host, Bo Greer, former Division I football player, and kind of at the center of this Michael Sam story looking forward is how the locker room is going to react. Now, if there was an openly gay player when you played ball for the University of New Mexico, do you think people in the locker room would say anything? Do you think there'd be some kind of back talk when he wasn't around? How would that play out?
It's very interesting that you bring that up because we actually did deal with it. We had a guy on the team. It was kind of similar to when you've seen the video of Michael Sam coming out to the Missouri players.
Right.
they were all, we know, man. You know, you spend every day with these guys. We all have opportunities to date a lot of women on campus, and you just know who's not doing it.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with it. I think where the problem's going to come for Mr. Sam, and I hope he's prepared to deal with this, is the attention. I don't care if you're in a high school, a Division I college, or the NFL, you're representing the Shield. I would not appreciate someone being able to grab this much attention, because at the end of the day, this game is about recognition and notoriety. Players know it. There's guys that get to hang around on that roster, whether it's at a Division I college or in the NFL, because of politics and the seats that they put in the stands.
Right.
And unfortunately for Michael Sam, he is just a good PR move right now, and I was not surprised at all. I knew that there would be some sort of connection with St. Louis. I mean, he played at the University of Missouri. I'm not surprised that the St. Louis Rams stepped up and picked him up. It seems to be a real tight-knit area around there when it comes to athletics, and I'm glad to see him stay in that area because he's going to have supporters from the University of Missouri that are going to be able to be there for him. But, that's going to be a problem. All these cameras, the media, you know that there's going to be media people assigned to him that have never been around football. You're going to see the likes of the Lifetime Network probably following Michael Sam around. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I'm a guy that makes $17 million a year and I scored 17 touchdowns and this guy's got a circus behind him, there's going to be some problems in that locker room.
And speaking of attention, I think you saw this also, Bo. As of this morning, Michael Sam was the number 2 best-selling rookie jersey behind only Johnny Manziel. That means he outsold Jadeveon Clowney.
Yes.
He outsold Bortles, Bridgewater. That's a lot of attention and a lot of money. And, of course, teams like making more revenue off jersey sales. But, as we saw with Tim Tebow, you might put a lot of rear ends in the seats. You might sell a lot of jerseys, but if your game's not up to snuff, you're not making the team.
Exactly. They're going to sniff you out real quick, have you, in the line with the guys who were undrafted, free agents, just lucky to get on the practice field. And Tebow, he got to experience that. A guy like Sam, though, when I hear the kid talk, when I read articles and interviews, he gets it. And that's what I like about him. I'll be honest with you, I'm rooting for him. Anybody that breaks out on their own and does something different, that's a hard road, and he's going down a road that few have traveled. I don't think anyone's ever traveled down this road. So, he's going to have to realize that there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. He's going to have to deal with that. But at the end of the day, like I said, football players, we love that. If you don't have a situation where it seems impossible, sometimes we'll phone it in and just become real lazy. So I imagine Mr. Sam has some motivation. He's probably chugging eggs like Rocky when he gets up in the morning and jogging around the block right now.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it right now. I don't think he makes the team.
You don't think so?
Specifically, you look at the Rams. They're already stacked at defensive end. They have, they got Quinn and Long as the starters. They've got 2 solid backups and what's his name, Willie Hayes and Eugene Sims. Maybe Sam can make the special teams position, do something, niche for the team that way. They say he's got a great work ethic, so it's a possibility. But, at that position, that's a hard team to bust into.
You hit it right on the head, man. His frame, when you see his frame, and since he's on TV, on every media outlet, you see him a lot. He looks like a guy that you see running down to bust up a wedge on special teams.
Yeah, I can see
he
that.
looks like a guy that you're sending through there to block a punt in a special formation or something. So we know there's been plenty of careers made at that. And what's the league minimum right now? I think 700,000, 780,000, something like that, around 800. He'll be all right. He'll live. But you're right. A lot of guys who go in them last picks, they're not even supposed to make the team. So that's already something that I hope that the PR department, everybody is dealing with the Rams and working with him, because they're going to have questions answered. If they ever cut him, you think Tebow had a circus when he was getting cut? This circus will have people involved. You may even see Oprah out there. The list goes on of people who may show up asking why Michael Sam's got cut.
I think the important part is he's getting a crack at it. He's getting a chance. He's gonna go through mini camp. He's gonna get to bulk up a little bit more, work on his skill, and like we touched on, might wind up on the special team. I just don't see it with that defense. I don't think he's going to make it.
And hey, this is America. It's capitalism. We watch movies made about people who are Hall of Famers or the trendsetters, the people who broke free and figured out a way to make $1 billion. And along the way, there was always a hard decision made. And I'm not trying to say this is what went on, but I could speculate and say there was probably conversation between him, his agent, his father, his coaches, his mentors, to say, hey, you have an opportunity here to do something nobody's ever done. Be the first openly gay player to go enter the draft. Now, did that guarantee he was going to get picked up in the later rounds? If it did, that is the hustle move of the century.
Sure.
There ain't a brother on earth that isn't sitting in the hood right now thinking about how they could spend Michael Sam's money. I'd have a Charger on 24s, and I'd probably paint it all black. Yeah, that's what I'd do with that money. Because, hey, Michael Sam's made it. I didn't have a move like that to get me drafted in the late rounds. He did it. Good job, brother.
Should have smeared some cake. Could have broken you over the edge. You had already brought up the DB of the Dolphins, Don Jones, who I'd never heard of, to be honest with you. Now, following his comments on Twitter, he got fined and suspended by the Dolphins organization. He's since apologized, but as you might be able to predict, he wasn't the only bonehead out there who said something dumb about this on Twitter. Do you remember, Bo, Marshall Henderson, Ole Miss basketball player?
No,
This is probably 2-3 seasons ago when he 2 seasons ago when he would shoot threes from everywhere. I remember LeBron even tweeted at him that no one in the history of basketball has had a greener green light than this guy. Anyway, Marshall Henderson said that he was going to boycott SportsCenter until this, quote, disgusting stuff with Michael Sam is off the air. And, of course, this sparked a lot of controversy. And so backpedaling, he went on to say, yeah, that thing I said, I was helping out one of my friends who is gay, by the way, who's doing a psychology study and knew that I would get a lot of feedback. So yeah, it was for a psych study. Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
Now, never mind the fact that Ole Miss had graduation ceremonies on May 10th, so it seemed like kind of an odd time to be doing homework, but that's his story. He's sticking to it. Marshall, you're an idiot.
He is an idiot, and it goes along with my favorite, the hypocrisy of the NFL. You know what hypocrisy means. I don't have to sit here and read the definition. But time and time again, we hear the NFL, we see the NFL take these stances, yet the very people who work within the organizations and get the paychecks do not practice them. And I'm tired of it because at the end of the day, Goodell has the power. I like you, Raj. You've heard me say it before. You do a good thing with the league. There ain't a brother out there that doesn't have a problem with what you've done with this NFL. But I do have a problem with when you guys just fine players or you give them these little ticky-tack slaps on the wrist because you're almost giving the same punishment to a guy for an illegal hit that he's getting from, when he's sitting out there saying things that aren't only hurting Michael Sam's and these individuals because they're ready for it. Who we're trying to help out is the 12-year-old boy on the high school football team that maybe needs to come out.
Right.
Well, when he sees these grown men saying things this juvenile, what is he going to think his peers are going to say when he has to come out of the closet? He's never going to do it. Things like this. I just seen a piece that was talking about suicide rates in our country. Mm-hmm. And I'm a firm believer. I've always believed that until we tackle the homosexuality problem in this country, suicide rates are going to continue to climb because there's a lot of individuals who are living their life. It's just a false life.
You don't mean the homosexuality problem. You mean
I'm sorry, not a problem.
You mean the problem that people have with homosexuality.
The problem people have with homosexuality. That's what I meant to say, definitely.
You owe me $5 for that save, Bo.
Yes, thank you.
Now, kind of along the same lines, this I don't know, I'm sure you've heard about this proposed rule that they would fine players on the field for making racially insensitive remarks during. Have you heard about that?
Yes.
I mean, how would you even go about doing that?
What's amazing to me is that we're going to attempt this in 2014 when we know it.
Are they for sure?
And no, they're not going to do it for sure. But the fact that they're attempting to pass the legislation it's almost comical because you know that it was a word that was probably being used more in the 60s and 70s on the field, in a derogatory sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now we all know, we listen to hip hop music. It's just a word that's out there.
You speak for yourself, Bo. I listen to Christian rock only.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good God, no.
But, it's one of those things, man, where culture, again, it's being tested. And time and time again, my fellow brethren, we're at the short end of this stick. And it's just one of those deals to where you don't need to police the language that's being used. You need to police what these guys are putting out on Twitter. The fact that they're going to try and police the language on the field, regardless of what it is, but they're not going to stop the things that are going to be beamed out into space for everybody to see. These tweets are not, you can't just pull them. They're always going to be there. They're always going to be associated with the NFL, the Dolphins, or whatever organization. Yet they're still considering, finding people for racial slurs on the field.
Well, you can do both, though, can't you? I mean, they find people for things they've said on Twitter.
Yeah, they find people for doing things on Twitter, but the problem I have with the one on the field is it's just focused at a certain group of people, mainly African-American males. They don't want them using the N-word. The freedom of speech allows you, it's protected in rap music, so you can't touch it there. But, oh boy, we're going to stop every pro athlete who is obviously into the hip-hop culture because of the tattoos and the big rims, whatever. It's a problem that's been going on in America for years. I always, I question, are they really trying to help, or are they trying to clean up an image? They're cleaning up an image. It's the same thing with the NBA and making them wear suits on the sidelines. I really don't need to see a basketball player in a suit.
Especially those ugly ones that they walk in with too,
Plaid. The one that Dwayne Wade was wearing, I wouldn't want to be buried in that thing, even if it was for free. It was a $5,000 coat, and I think the pants were
Capri
another
pants,
six.
right?
Yeah, $6,000 pair of pants that doesn't even cover up your ankles. That was amazing to me. But it's culture, and we're going to continue to fight the fight, but every once in a while, not to steal one of your new topics, Donald Sterling comes up and everybody comes together and we see that we are moving in the right direction.
We'll get to that a little bit later when we talk some NBA ball. But when your Dallas Cowboys were on the clock, you could feel the air being sucked out of Radio City Music Hall, everyone on their feet. And television ratings actually went up a full point. That's 1 million people when the Cowboys were on the clock. Would Jerry Football take Johnny Football? Everyone was waiting for it. And then, nope, not going to happen. But Johnny Manziel did end up getting picked after a long, long night waiting, looking all nervous, sitting at his table, drinking Aquafina. And it turned out that he was going to be a Brown, headed to Cleveland. So will he start? Probably not.
I'm not worried about him starting. What I'm worried about is Johnny Manziel adjusting to the new NFL life. He is going to have the ability to, a little more free reign. He has money. We know the dad was an oil baron or whatever. He owns a little oil. So that's not going to be a problem with him. But now it's going to the Cleveland Cavaliers games. It's going to the Cleveland Indians games and being seen with the likes of Drake and this, that. How's he going to manage that? Now, I don't have a problem with it. I'm all about swagalicious when it comes to people marketing themselves. Johnny Football successfully marketed himself into what? Number 1 in jersey sales in one weekend.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot tell me from here on out, every young man who is in a position like Johnny Football to market himself, throw up gang signs when you score touchdowns, do whatever you do, because, oh, by the way, kid, you could sell more jerseys than Peyton Manning and Drew Brees and everybody else who's won Super Bowls your first day in the NFL. I mean, who's going to turn that down?
Hey, he's earned his little cash money hand gesture thing he does. I mean, you can't say he hasn't earned it. Now, the thing with Johnny Manziel that might become an issue is the ownership of the Browns. The owner, Haslam, already came out and said, quote, we were very frank with him that you're the backup quarterback. This is a hardworking blue-collar town. This isn't Hollywood, he said. Quote, we want you to come in here, work hard, work as hard as anybody on the team. He's not the starter. Brian Hoyer is our starting quarterback. Johnny is the backup. Johnny backup.
And after hearing statements like that, I can't wait for the day that Jay-Z and every other rapper, or it could even be the Rolling Stones, figure out ways to buy these teams. Because when I hear stuff like that, it just screams some old guy who made all of his money some old-fashioned way, stealing from the American people. We're blue collar. We work hard here. Oh, yeah, by the way, I own 70 factories, and I shipped everybody's jobs over to China in the middle of the night. Yeah, I love it when guys like that get up on their high horse and they try to talk to the rest of us on how we need to conduct ourselves now that we're members of these distinguished organizations. It's a joke. Hey, Johnny Football, you keep doing what you're doing because it's the reason you are where you are now, and don't stop a thing. By the way, how about that owner? When he called up Johnny Football, he should have been calling, what's your boy's name? Bob Marley, what's his name? Cleveland Browns wide receiver.
Oh, Josh Gordon.
Oh, Josh Gordon. What's Josh Gordon doing? That's real blue collar. Oh gosh, can't even pass a drug test. Yet Johnny Manziel deserves a phone call from the owner.
This is what always cracks me up about the whole failed drug test for marijuana and the NFL thing. The question to me is not whether or not this is a good rule. The question is, can you not break the rules? Can you be a professional and not waste your $1 million earning potential on breaking a rule that we've heard these players know when they're going to be tested? It's not hard to pass. So it's like is this unjust that he might be suspended? It's how big of an idiot are you, Josh Gordon, for not being able to figure out a way to roll one up and light one up and not get busted at the same time? How dumb is that? You're a millionaire.
Exactly. And if that was a guy that the GM and the owner felt that they needed to have on their team before they picked up Johnny Manziel, that just shows me that it's not just the players. It's not just the staff. It is a whole systematic problem with the Cleveland Browns. That's why, as far as I'm concerned, the Cleveland Browns still are in Baltimore. They're the Baltimore Ravens. The Cleveland Browns still don't exist as far as I'm concerned. I know there's a ton of people in Cleveland right now that would love to string me up, but you got to agree. You guys have nothing to celebrate. So enjoy Johnny. I'm actually excited to go watch an NFL ticket game with the Browns on it. It used to be a waste of space on DirecTV. Now Johnny Football is going to be out there running around trying not to get smeared by half of the league. We're actually going to watch the Browns.
Yeah, at least have the potential of seeing Johnny Manziel getting sacked. So love him or hate him, the excitement's going to be there. And, a few more interesting things around the league during the NFL draft. This is one of my favorite picks right here. The Bears drafted punter, and a great name, Pat O'Donnell. Have you heard of this guy, Bo? During the combine, this, again, punter outlifted Jadeveon Clowney. Covered that last week. Mad. That's right. I don't need him after me. He outbenched him. At the combine, O'Donnell lifted 225 pounds, 23 reps, compared to Jadeveon's 21 reps. This guy's a punt. What are you even doing making your upper body that big? Is that going to help your game? What?
It is a well-known fact when I played football that our punters and kickers, a lot of them were some of the best athletes on the team. You go through a lot of records on teams, and I'm not talking about your pure bench press records or squat records, but those little things where you got to have a mix of endurance, skill, and strength. Those guys all have it, because what a lot of people don't know is a majority of them either played soccer or rugby.
Yeah.
And these guys are just animals. It's funny. Sometimes we would be jogging to a new drill, and we'd run past our kickers and punters, their little area. They had the smallest space on the field. And if they ever kicked the ball near the starters, they would get chewed out. It was amazing. But sometimes you would run by those guys and it would smell like cigarettes and liquor. I'm not joking, man. You're like, what are you doing over here? And I'd look over at them and you could just see the glassiness in their eyes. Like, those bastards are drinking. We're out here busting our ass and they're getting drunk now.
You picked the wrong position to play, my friend.
Yeah.
Could have been you.
That should have been me. And, and my dad tried to make me kick, but I wanted to be, I wanted to make tackles and do stuff that would get me on ESPN. But little did I know, I could have been over there in the corner getting buzzed up, watching the cheerleaders. playing D1 football.
And speaking of that, my beloved Kansas City Chiefs picked up DeAnthony Thomas from Oregon, and I like where his head is at already. During his interview in the days following the draft, he said he was looking forward to the good barbecue in the Kansas City metro area, and also the fact that there's good fishing in the area. Third thing was getting to work on the football field. So hey. He's already got a commendable attitude. Certainly, both of those things I can relate with, and hopefully, he'll actually do something on the football field too. So, around the draft, Bo, did any of these other draftees catch your attention, or any of the other storylines?
No, everything fell in place just like you expected. There's a whole lot of blunders, no names, and people were never really going to get to know. It's just like we talked a week ago. You don't know what's going to happen until they line up and start playing. Some of these guys that were drafted in the first round, 4 years from now, we'll be talking about how they're getting let go or how they got released because it never worked out. You just never know with these guys. We all have jobs. We see people get hired, walk in the door, they clock in 3 times, and next thing you know, they're gone. You just never know with people nowadays.
And we'll be talking some NBA playoff action, and the big story in the NBA, of course, Donald Sterling got interviewed with by Anderson Cooper. So we're going to have that coming up next on the Sean and Bo Show.
Once again, we're here on the Sean and Bo Show, and I just want to remind our fellow humans out there listening that if you want to get involved, maybe a little advertisement, or you just have ideas on what we should be doing on the show, go ahead and email us at seanandboshow@gmail.com. That's seanandboshow@gmail.com.
Welcome back to episode 2 of the Sean and Bo Show. NBA playoffs in full effect, and they're totally overshadowed by this idiot Donald Sterling. Sterling was interviewed by Anderson Cooper just today, and I think it's safe to say made a bigger ass out of himself than he already had. He said a lot of dumb things, but I would have to say that the number one dumb thing he said was about Magic Johnson. Bo, did you hear the audio?
Yeah, it's amazing that a guy of this stature doesn't have people around him saying, hey, Donald, let's not talk about Magic anymore. It's probably not a good idea. But no, he goes on CNN. It's not in the privacy of his own home, and answers a question referring to Magic Johnson not being a good role model for the youth of L.A. And you know more about what actually followed after that. What did he continue to say?
He said, oh, Magic Johnson went around to every NBA city in the country and slept with every woman he could and got AIDS. He got AIDS. He said it like 5 times. Meanwhile, he's talking to Anderson Cooper, who's gay, probably has a little sensitivity about the whole AIDS topic, and Anderson's just, you can tell he's like, is this guy really saying this right now? So yeah, he blasted Magic for that, and I was telling you this, Bo, off the air. Everybody loves Magic Johnson. I mean, if you were gonna, like, I really think he must be losing his damn mind. I mean, I can't think of a more beloved public figure to the NBA than Magic Johnson.
No, definitely being an 80s baby myself, if you played sports as a youth, your mother would refer to players like Magic Johnson. She remembers, my mother went to Indiana State University, so obviously getting to see Larry and Magic go head-to-head, that was huge to her. And, Magic Johnson made such an impression on everybody that grew up watching Big Ten basketball. And then he goes to play with the Showtime Lakers. It was something they've never seen before.
And what he's done
after, with the theaters, the car washes, the banks, helping to rebuild areas that have just basically been forgotten in Southern California. You cannot go after a gentleman like that.
Okay, I'm just going down my list here of stupid things that Donald Sterling said in this interview. The next just ridiculous thing he said was talking about how Jewish people, when they get rich, help out their people, whereas black people don't want to do that.
That's something, I actually had a conversation with my mother not too long ago along those lines. And, one of the things that is it's a common misconception about us African Americans is we don't have any money. Everybody always talks about, well, these groups of people pulled their money together and they did so well. We don't have that money. You got to remember, people in my family couldn't own land until about, I believe, this is a true story. My father tells me there's a member of our family that the Smithsonian Institution, out of the big deal, the real Smithsonian, is investigating because they believe he may have been the first black landowner in Indiana. And this was in the 1900s. So you're talking about people who have only been able to own land in this country since the 1900s in some areas. So you're not going to have that wealth. You're not going to have people to pull together to make things happen. So Donald, you're talking out of your rear end again. And that's what you need to stop doing. That's what got you into this trouble.
And as Anderson Cooper pointed out, kind of in a segue during the interview, they were kind of playing different clips. Magic Johnson has the Magic Foundation. He's raised millions and millions of dollars towards HIV/AIDS awareness, helping impoverished people get treatment. So, yeah, he has done some stuff, Donald. It's not like he's Scrooge McDucking it up, swimming around in his money in a giant bin. No, I mean he's doing what he can. I clearly don't think you can say Magic Johnson hasn't done anything for the African American community.
Yeah, it's not fair to bring that kind of stuff up because who is he to judge? At the end of the day, why does it have to be African American community, Jewish community? Last time I checked, we're all American. We all have to pay taxes, and we're all getting screwed at the end of the day. So we need to help each other out. And I think when I see Magic Johnson, I don't see a guy that just focuses on helping out African Americans. I see a guy that is very invested in Southern California, and Southern California is a huge Hispanic Latino community. So I imagine he's helping out a few other people too.
Yep. Probably the biggest delusional thing that came out of Sterling's stupid mouth was that he said that, quote, his players still love him. That's right. Donald Sterling thinks that Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and the rest of the Clippers are still in his corner. Now, this is where it's like, for a second, I almost feel bad about this guy because it's so clear to me that this is an old rich man whose mind is just turning into mush. Like, have you been reading any newspapers, Donald? Have you gotten any intel on this? According to Charles Barkley, Magic Johnson, Shaq even weighed in on the TNT show. These players aren't going to play.
I'm sitting here, Sean, and I'm trying not to just bust up into uncontrollable laughter.
Because, Chris Paul loves him. What are you talking about?
I can just I hear voices in my head. I just want to say, well, thank you, boss. Well, thank you, boss. It plays into Donald Sterling's old slave owner mentality of, well, I let these guys sleep in my house and I let them eat my chicken. They need to treat me good. Just give it up, Donald. Stop that mess. Nobody wants to hear it. Anderson Cooper let you go in there because his producers wanted to have the #1 rated show in the time slot. But we really don't care anymore. All you're doing is clouding up and mucking up what has been an interesting NBA playoff. And one of the most interesting NBA playoffs I can remember since I was a kid, and you're watching the likes of Jordan and Isaiah, guys that really wrote the history of the NBA. But Donald, get over it.
and what Chuck said and what Magic said is that it's not just a matter of if Donald Sterling himself is going to own the team that these players aren't going to show up, but if his ex-wife gets the team, if his son gets the team, it's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And what Donald was saying in the interview kind of points to the fact that he is going to fight this. So I don't know what's going to happen towards the beginning of the NBA season. It's going to be a long legal battle. It might not be over by then, probably won't be over by then. So what's going to happen? Are we going to have a delay in the NBA season? Are these players going to be granted free agency? I don't know.
And something that Donald's going to the NASCAR ownership, the France family was alluded to this. You've been breaking bread with these guys for a long time. I remember an article years ago, Charles Barkley had a $400,000 tab that he forgot about at one of the hotels in Las Vegas. The type of people that are able to walk out on $400,000 and pay it from their house because they forgot about it, you don't want to mess with them. These boys have unions. They can pull their money together, and I'm pretty sure they have enough legal analysis around them to know what the NBA Players Union Association has to do, what the owners have to do to make sure Donald Sterling is not a part of the NBA moving forward.
And, Bo, as you were saying, it's been a really entertaining playoffs. Kind of a shame that this has taken center stage. We've been watching the games, and firstly, I would say if I have to hear Tinder or that Pharrell song one more time, I'm going to take an ice pick to my eardrum. Please stop it. But they have been great games. I don't think this second round has been quite as entertaining as the first round. I think those first round matchups were great. You got Brooklyn, Miami. I think that game, we were watching it before we came on here. I think that's over. I think Miami won that.
LeBron, 50 points.
Oh, gosh. So that's 3-1 in Miami's favor. That series is over. San Antonio, which is happening right now, playing Portland. They're already up 3 games. That could be over tonight. Blazers could be spooling up their reels and getting their split shot ready to go catch some bass. It's over. So you have the other 2 series. Indiana up 3-1 on Washington, and then the one that is probably the most entertaining, as our friend Stephen Babb at Bleacher Report actually told us it would be last week, Clippers and OKC. That's been a really great series. Great comeback that we saw last game. I think they were down, I think it was like 16, 18 points, and they came back.
Yeah.
And that's certainly a hard one to predict. And I've kind of been rooting for the Clippers more than I ordinarily would be, just because of this whole Donald Sterling debacle, just because I want him to know that he can't go there and watch his team compete on such a high level. So that's been a real interesting series. What do you think is going to happen with your Pacers?
Well, the Pacers, obviously, they should finish things up at home. But, getting back to what you're talking about with the Clippers, man, it's really sad to see that they finally got the organization where they needed to be to compete at that level, and Donald Sterling goes and just messes the whole thing up. Here the Lakers are down. You have an opportunity with these young stars to make it to the Western Conference Finals, maybe even beyond, do something that is going to allow you to put your mark on the Staples Center finally. Maybe you'll get to hang a banner somewhere if the Bus family lets you rent out a space up top. But, here we are. So if I'm the guy that's coming in that's going to have to own these Clippers, I'm thinking about that. That's an issue,
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think the next ownership group that comes in gets blank slate. I think all sins are going to be forgiven, and they're going to have a lot of wiggle room to mess up because, the players in the players' minds, well, it's not the Sterlings at least. So, I think it's kind of a great position if you were an ownership group to come in and buy that team, just because of just how dumb and evil and bigoted Donald Sterling has demonstrated himself to be. Anything's going to be better than the old boss.
Yeah, and a lot of these stories that have been coming out of Southern California since this broke is it's centers around his slumlord activities. He has a few places that people are like, that's the owner of the Clippers. And I've seen one story where the guy said that he even goes as far to hang Clippers flags on some of his properties, so that it's a Sterling property, that you're affiliated with that. Well, I was thinking all this time, I'm like, I'm from the Midwest. I had no idea that the poor people of Southern California were made to not only watch this horrible franchise, but they had to live in the guy's horrible apartments the whole time too. So it's a double whammy. I think there's going to be a lot of people that will be so excited to see that regime just lift away from the Clippers organization, and they can start to move forward. And like I said, maybe the Staples Center won't just be known as the house the Lakers built.
All right, coming up next, Jay-Z gets slapped up in an elevator, and Bo debuts his brand new segment. Hang out, it's the Sean and Bo Show. Thank you for listening to the Sean and Bo Show. This would normally be a spot for ad, but we don't have very many listeners yet, so we have no advertisers yet. But if you would like information on how to sponsor the show, send us an email. The address is seanandboshow@gmail.com. That's seanandboshow@gmail.com. Back to the show.
Welcome back to the Sean and Bo Show, episode 2. We're happy to have you, and thanks for bearing with us, because if you're still listening now, you must have heard something you liked.
Jay-Z got slapped up in an elevator. I just showed Bo the video here during the break. What the hell? What's going on? Jay, I told you should have started a headphone company. We'd have been rich.
Jay's sitting over there talking about everything but what has to go on with that woman, because apparently Jay-Z is a music mogul. He's a investor. He does it all. He owns a basketball team. He's into sports agents now. Why is he even dealing with a sister-in-law? Isn't that beneath him? I thought you graduated out of that stuff when you became a 600 millionaire.
I like how he didn't really have to defend himself. The security guard just immediately jumped in and nabbed this girl. But, man, I wonder what the hell this was all about.
I was just speculating when you showed me the video. It looks like it's, one of them galas, New York type deal.
Yeah, I was at the Met.
Yeah, you can't act a certain way. You can't have too many drinks. And I imagine someone from TMZ is going to let us know real soon what's going on. That's what those guys are good for. They get good dirt because something happened. Something was said or she did something that had to get her. Jay-Z had to get her out of there right away. And it was bad enough to where he had to go with her. They were trying to keep perception up. He walked her out because they didn't want everybody else to just think he has his security guards removing his family for him. He walked her out as if to say, oh, I'm going to take her to her car. She's tired.
That's a scary situation, though, Bo. I don't know if this has ever happened to you when a drunk woman decides that she's going to attempt to attack the large man. That is not a situation you want to find yourself in.
No. I in the summertime, I would go back and work in the jail. And drunk women are the hardest to deal with. You can get hurt, like severely hurt, dealing with a drunk woman.
They'll break your heart, Bo.
Oh, they'll break your heart, but they have the ability to flail their arms and legs while being suspended in the air to where they can hit you with the speed of about 60 miles an hour right to the junk. I mean, you take a groin shot from a drunk woman at 2 a.m. when you're working the drunk take in some small town, that crap hurts, man. That shit will take you to your knees.
Flailing around like a drunken Gumby.
That's exactly what it looks like. But, looking at that video again, I always ask myself, when are these people going to realize the whole world has a camera on it? You can't even pull your car off to the side of the road in rural New Mexico and have sex with your wife. A state trooper lost his job doing that. Rural New Mexico, there isn't a civilization or a gas station around for 150 miles, yet someone who owns a ranch has a camera on the gate.
You've been busted for this before?
No.
Tell me the story.
This is a true story, but I'm amazed every time I hear a story. So now here we are again, Jay-Z. A few months ago, it was the Ray Rice running back.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go to a very famous spot where we know there's surveillance cameras. We're famous, and we're going to get in a fight. Come on. It just screams Tupac and Biggie all over again.
Now, as this segment is brand new, it doesn't have a name yet, but sort of where this is heading is we're both big into college football, maybe place an occasional bet, listen to a lot of sports talk, obviously, and there's just a lot of garbage out there, a lot of worthless speculation that happens with sports talk. And here is Bo to break down 10 things that you should be focusing on instead of the minutia.
Yeah, it's real simple this time of year, Sean, to get caught up in what I like to call football fever. Even as a college athlete, you're doing workouts every day. You maybe have a little summer job, going over the playbook, watching film from last year, just preparing, trying to figure out how you're going to get an edge to win you that conference title, get you to the BCS championship or, a New Year's Day bowl game. But what happens time and time again with football fever is we all get caught up in the Avalon Sports magazines, the ESPN polls, and I'm just going to tell you right now, this is what you should be thinking about, America, when it comes to football fever. Number 10, it's way too early for anyone to have expertise or even call themselves an expert about college football or the NFL.
You tell that to Mel Kiper, Bo.
Mel Kiper has made millions and created his own industry off selling to you guys the idea that you're going to find out something in June, July, and August that nobody else knows. And to you gamblers out there, including myself, stop falling for it. They're called future bets. You're going to try and make some silly future bet based on something you read in a magazine while you're taking a crapper in an airport. Stop doing it. Moving on. Number 9. Jameis Winston is still way too far away from his first game to even think about putting your money on Florida State. Florida State is a top 5 football team with Winston at the helm. If he's still in crab legs in a couple months, they could fall as far as a top 30 team.
I hope he moves on to lobster tails at least. Class it up, Jameis. Come on.
Yeah, class it up a little bit, and it's still something that you're going to be able to eat without having to crack some shells. I don't even know how you plan on eating that stolen crab while you're on the run, man. And, just stay away from getting caught up in what people did last year, because a lot of these teams, players are going to get in trouble. They're going to get suspended. We don't know what is going to happen. So stay away from those future bets again. Number 8, we all know the SEC is the greatest. It has the lowest GPA. Therefore, it is the king of college football.
America.
America. But, what we need to try and figure out who's going to be number 2. Stop wasting time on trying to be the guy that's going to be at the water cooler going, oh, I believe Florida is going to win the SEC. You have no idea. Every team in the SEC could have 4 losses by October, and they'll be lucky that one of them's still in the top 5.
I don't think the SEC is where they were at maybe even 4 or 5 years ago. They are, of course, number 1. But I don't know, man. I don't know if that's going to be here to stay.
They are slipping, and it's all coaching. You can see coaches that have gotten away. I was recruited by Adazio. He has just flown around from school to school, and I always keep an eye on that guy because I noticed wherever he was offensive coordinator at, they were in national championships, they were in BCS games. And you start following these coaches. I always tell people, follow the coaching trees because guys who win usually keep winning. So, yeah. The SEC isn't where it was a few years ago because I think they let a lot of coordinators get away. Even though they have the highest paid salaries, these guys want to be head coaches. So they go to Pac-10 schools, Big Ten schools, sure. And even with the Adazio, I think he's coaching Temple. So, they'll go anywhere that they can get a job.
Temple as a football team?
Yeah, he got them to the New Mexico Bowl 2 years ago. They won like 8 games.
Oh, who could forget that classic?
The classic Temple, and I believe, was it Colorado State? I forget. It was a good game, though. And let's move on here. We don't get caught up talking about the SEC. They dominate the airwaves as it is. Number 7, spring ball and the NFL draft are officially over.
Thank God.
Thank God. So you know what's going on with the mothership? We're starving for stories. They're going to try and sell you on things as simple as Aaron Rodgers was seen riding the golf cart from field 1 to field 4 today. Is his ankle bothering him? No. Stay out of that. You start getting caught up in the muck that they use to fill time slots in a 24-hour sports news cycle, you'll be broke by September. Moving on. Number 6. The college football world lost a ton of firepower. They're going to need to replace it. You're going to be stuck looking at teams like Texas A&M in the first 5 games saying, oh, that's an easy bet. They always win those games. Hey, Manziel's gone. Alabama, A.J. McCarron's gone. University of Central Florida lost their quarterback that was the man that orchestrated just about every win for them for the past 3 seasons. You got to look to see what they've lost. If you don't know what a team lost the year before, why are you putting money on them early? Why are you going to bet on them on week 1? Remember Michigan getting beat by Appalachian State? There's a whole lot of people that thought that was a shoo-in. Michigan gets upset in the Big House by Appalachian State. If you would have looked a year before, you would have known that those holes were going to be exploited with Appalachian State's offense and their firepower.
By the way, how crazy was it that the University of Texas didn't draft a single player this year? Talk about a fall from grace.
You actually hit up, it's funny, you got my number 2 on the list, and we're going to go ahead and jump into that. 1937, what was going on in 1937? Who was president? I don't even know.
FDR, I think.
FDR, that is insane. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have been watching the University of Texas football the past decade, you have known that there's something up. You don't have to watch college football to understand that guys getting top 5, top 10, top 15, top 20 recruiting classes out of high school should be developing more talent. Mack Brown for years was seen as a guy that could not develop talent, and it was proven. And it finally came to a head when you don't get a single player drafted. But watch out. You know what his name is? Charlie Strong.
I like him.
And it's amazing to me. Charlie Strong just put Teddy Bridgewater in the NFL. Teddy Bridgewater is good. I liked what he did in college, but be honest with me, Sean. If Teddy Bridgewater was playing at the likes of UNLV or, Boise State, Fresno State, he's not getting drafted where he got drafted. That was because he went to University of Louisville and he played for Charlie Strong. A lot of people respect Charlie Strong. And what he teaches these kids, it echoes throughout the NFL, and they enjoy getting those players from him.
Did you hear the speculation as to why he dropped so far? Apparently, they discovered, I don't know if it was at the combine or just one of his team workouts, that he has an irregular heartbeat.
Oh,
Yeah, so all of a sudden, they don't think it's going to be a big deal. They don't think it's going to impact his play. But if you're hitching your wagon to a quarterback and you weren't 100% sold on that quarterback, that might make you a little bit nervous.
oh, that is a big issue. That really is, because at the end of the day, the owner of the team is going to be paying those bills, and it's a business. So I do understand that.
I think it was Teddy Roosevelt, by the way.
Teddy Roosevelt.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Roosevelt was in the White House possibly when the Longhorns went without drafting a player. Mac Brown, you want him the national title, but that is a blow to the legacy. Definitely. And moving on, let's get back to the list.
I'm not good at math. I don't know where we're at with this right now because we went 2,
Yeah.
6, carry the 1.
Now we jumped to 2 because we started talking about the NFL draft with Texas, but I'm going to get back up here. We're actually on number 5. And the number 5 thing you should be thinking about when it comes to college football and what's going to happen for this season, 2014, the effects of money talks, pay for play. This is going on every college campus across America. They're talking about unions, and I just seen something where the University of North Carolina is going to be reviewing their student-athlete support structure. With this type of action being taken on college campuses, Sean, it's going to require players to be interviewed. They're going to be talking to coaches. They're going to be talking to athletic directors. There's going to be a little bit of change for some of these guys. They will notice it, because at the end of the day, we know this in America, money talks. And in a university like Alabama, Tennessee, Texas, where all they've had to focus on is getting on the field and winning football games, now you're going to have players being talked to by a professor of economics who wants to ask him, how many nights do you eat ramen noodles over steak? That's going to be big stuff for a kid that's 19. And I wonder how much that's going to creep into some of these universities where you're talking about pay for play.
So if the school's unionized, do you think that benefits the smaller schools or the bigger schools? I mean, do you think an Alabama is just going to be able to bankroll way past these smaller universities?
I don't think it's going to affect everybody or anybody, because being a member of a union, when I worked for the public schools, it doesn't matter if you're in Albuquerque where the money isn't that great, or if you're in the Washington, D.C. or Atlanta, wherever you are. They have figured out ways to pull this money together, create national organizations that bring this money together, so kind of like we do insurance, so the people who don't make as much aren't left out in the wind when these things happen. So I do think you're going to see a little bit of socialism, that's a naughty word in America, start to creep into football, where you're the University of Alabama, who have sponsorship with people the likes like Citibank, can help bankroll a couple smaller schools, just like we already do with Title IX and female athletics,
But not every school has access to fresh crab legs. Something you got to remember. It's going to be a regional benefit.
It is. That is a regional benefit. And all right, moving on our list, we're almost done. Bear with me, everybody. Number 4, will the SEC deal with ESPN make the SEC even more untouchable? And I feel yes. You can already hear there's a lot of conversation going on about the 8-game schedule. I don't know if you know anything about this, Sean, but the ACC and the SEC reviewed their schedules because they're worried about positioning themselves for the playoff in 2014. Mm-hmm. Those types of moves, and with the SEC and the ESPN having that deal, in my eyes, it's going to make them more untouchable, where if you have a 3-loss SEC team, they're going to get picked up over a 1-loss team from the Pac-12.
Right.
It's just the way it's going to go. TV and ESPN and the SEC have worked in the past, and now I think it's going to be – it's a combination that's just not – you can't stop it. We're going to see SEC football front and center 24/7. It's going to be in your house.
All right, number 3, Bo.
No, we are –
Oh, God, this is so confusing, Bo. I think we need letters.
No, we got to do letters, but we're going to finish this up because we already did my last one. So here we go. Number 1 thing that I'm so excited about, and I want everybody out there to be excited about, but you have to remember when you're going to start placing those bets, and that's a college football playoff in 2014.
Yes.
It is finally here. But yes, with change, ladies and gentlemen, we all have to get ready for, well, I don't know how to put this, but it kind of breaks my heart. When I'm suffering through my hangover on January 1st, I am no longer going to be able to enjoy the likes of the Sun Bowl from El Paso, Texas, or the Liberty Bowl. Being a guy from a smaller school, and I was only recruited by, a lot of guys like Toledo and, Memphis, teams like that, not too many powerhouses there. The Liberty Bowls and the Sun Bowls, that was a big deal to us because you could possibly play your way in as an at-large if, you're the big guys, the SECs and the Pac-12s of the world were beating up on each other. And it's just one less opportunity for those guys to play in a big stage, but I believe your automatic qualifier, your non-AQ qualifiers are going to have a better opportunity to make that splash because of the playoff system. If we can get a school from the Mountain West to go undefeated, or the American Conference, I consider them a mid-level conference. If they can go undefeated, they can creep into that top 4 and maybe spoil one of those SEC teams. And then another thing I heard, I don't know if this is true, the Rose Bowl and Sugar Bowl are going to be semifinal games.
I think they're going to rotate it.
Okay, so it's going to rotate. So,
I think so, but maybe.
It's a lot of people. It's funny. We're sitting here trying to speculate. I know a lot of people that got to go to the conference today that they had introducing the playoff structure and showing the criteria. They still had a lot of questions, so I'm not going to even pretend to be an expert on what's going on. But the one thing that I wanted to hit on, reason it's number 1 on my list, the playoff structure is it's gonna creep into the minds of these athletes. You're going to have guys who won state championships in high school. They were able to make runs in tournaments. Hey, if I'm Oregon, if I'm Ohio State, if I'm Alabama, we know we got one. You got a mulligan. There's some schools that I believe if you start high enough, you're going to have that one loss you can give away. Now, is that going to make you play different? Is it going to make you prepare different for certain games? You got to be wary of that. You really got to watch that because like the NFL, where you ask yourself at the end of the NFL Sunday, did they have to go for it should they have gone for it on 4th and short, or were they just trying to get the next week because they know this game's really not going to affect their positioning in the standings? Is that going to start to happen in college football? A lot of people don't think so, but I think if you're a big dog, the haves and not necessarily the have-nots, you're going to be able to survive a couple losses.
I'll tell you one thing though, Bo. I think that with the college football playoff system, we're about to see the immense power of football in this country. I think a few years down the road, we're going to be looking at March Madness as a glorified tournament at your local rec league. I mean, football, once they understand the amount of money this tournament can make, it's going to be huge. It's going to take over everything, and it's going to be the college sport. If probably already is already, but I mean, this is what's just going to blow up minor league or college football.
Be careful with that minor league there. You have to start paying these guys. But, when I was a kid, when we were both children, college football was still the number 1 watch sport. NFL wasn't even close to it.
Right. Yeah.
It's only in the modern era,
last decade or two,
past decade that it's gotten past it. So, people need to be reminded of that. Often when I'm drinking beer with the guys I hang out with, I remind them, college football with this playoff has the potential to kind of go toe-to-toe with the NFL. It's not going to happen right away. But when you start creeping into that 8-team territory, which, don't say it because we're not even thinking about that. But like you said, when that money rolls in and they see that first check in them TV ratings and Coke's calling and Budweiser's calling, they're like, well, how can we get on board? You'll see what happens. They'll be trying to figure out a way to have a wild card. They'll have a Twitter. Everybody on Twitter can vote in a fan favorite team. It'll be the Little Sisters of the Poor against Alabama in the first round, voted on by the fans.
I don't know. What's the spread?
You be careful in those spreads. I remember I lost my tail thinking that Manning was going to hang 70 points on the Jaguars last year. Way to go, Peyton. I still want that money back. Give me some Papa John's.
That's going to do it for episode 2 of the Sean and Bo Show. We'll be back next Monday. I'm Sean O'Donnell alongside my co-host, Bo Greer. Tip your pizza man.